Thank you for joining us today for Sunday Conversations. Today, we continue our relationship series. Our topic is coined, Are You the Problem Concerning Your Relationship? Sit back, enjoy, and delight yourself with these conversations. Well, welcome, Yonci, to Sunday Conversations. This is super huge for me because I have been following you for about a year now, following your platform, Chasing Yonci, on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. But I've mostly been watching you on YouTube, and I just started watching you on Instagram. I think it was this month. I think. I'm not an Instagram person, so but let me introduce everybody to Yonci. Yonci is a life coach, where that she deals with relationships, and how that she came about this was the relationship between her and her husband. How that at one point she gave up on the relationship and then realized that he wasn't the issue. And so we're gonna get into that. But above all, she's also an author, but she will tell you all of that herself. So, Yonci, welcome to Sunday Conversations.
Thank you for having me.
So, won't you introduce yourself to the people?
I would like to call myself, or I should say, I'd like to call myself an encourager, because I believe that when we are out here having this walk, it's very easy to get discouraged. So I think it's important for people to encourage. So if people find encouragement by what I'm able to share, I like to say, learn from the mistakes that I've made. There's no point in both of us making them. I would like to do that. So I have been paving the trail with all the mistakes. And so I just shared with people what I have found does not work and what has been successful for me. So
okay.
Hopefully people can get some encouragement from that.
So let's jump into this. So you had been married for 12 years, you said, and you felt that you and your husband were going separate ways because for you started to feel like that you are starting to feel the separation between you and your husband, and you actually gave up. And you said like,
yeah, I'm always very picky about how I say it because, I don't want to ever tell someone else's story. But I was not happy. I'll just say I was not happy, and I did not know what else to do besides separate. So when I felt the unhappiness, I thought that would be the solution to walk away from my marriage. I thought that would make me.
Okay. So talk about what brought you back. Like, what was the moment that for you that said, hold on, what am I doing?
So I'll give you the timeline to make it a little bit more sense. So this would have been our 19th anniversary this year. But in year 12, I walked away. So as of right now, we are legally separated, and we were fine. Like, we got along, we were very amicable, we were co-parenting. But I truly believe it was the Lord himself who spoke to me, and told me at least a couple months ago that, one, this is still your husband, and two, that I wasn't done. So as I began to study the Word of God, I discovered what it talks about when it comes to divorce, and realized that even though we as Christians do it a lot, like, well, just get divorced and try it again the second time around, that is not what we are commanded to do. That the Bible says that if he gave us the provision of divorce, but that's it. You're just not married legally. But in God's eyes, we still are, and therefore I would be not able to marry again. So that was pretty startling to realize that there was no do-over. And that was very, very sobering as far as my marriage. My realization that I was the problem, that happened quite a while back. I actually started to realize how much of the problem I was before I left the relationship. But I felt that because I realized how much I was a problem, I didn't think it was possible for him to ever see me the way that I wanted to be seen because I had done too much dirt. It's kind of like somebody who was a menace to society and they worry if, society will ever take them seriously. Or you hear of people who've had like horrible, they were in industries that were a little questionable, and now it's like, will I ever be taken seriously as a wife and a mom or something like that? Obviously, my situation was not the same as that, but just a lot of my immaturity and lack of spiritual understanding, it caused me to be a handful emotionally. So I felt like I was doing him a favor. And I also felt like it would be easier if I just started from scratch with somebody who hadn't had the experience that they had with me. So it was like I said, the order is kind of jumbled up, but essentially I had what was the beginning of a nervous breakdown because of my pain. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I knew to do was to look to God. So in drawing closer to the Lord, he then started to show me how much of the problem I was, which then I tapped out of fear, saying, man, now that I realize how bad it is, no one's going to want to stay with me. So it's kind of like, let me leave first, when he wasn't.
I like how you said that you didn't think that that he would not forgive you or see you in that manner. What made you think that?
I think myself. I think we project onto other people what we would and wouldn't do. Ironically, he has said since the separation that he sees the changes in me. So I think it was nothing more than just looking at it from me. I had a very short patience. I had very little patience at that time. Mm-hmm. Because when I understand now, it's a gift of the Spirit. So it's understandable that I didn't have a lot of patience back then. So for me, let's just say you gave me a crystal ball and you're like, it's going to take 12 months for him to kind of heal. Because I looked at it like not getting over it, but really the reality is it's pain. And so it's like telling someone like, all right, are you almost done healing? You can't rush that process. So It was this realization that when you hurt somebody, it takes a while to heal. But because I needed something from him, like you extract, oil from an olive, I needed from him. And so that was the fear of, I don't know how quickly he's going to be able to heal to be able to give me what I needed.
Okay.
And that's why I say, looking back, had I known then what I know now, I would have been able to just get what I needed from God as far as the emotions. And I would have been able to sit it out as long as I needed to until he, as a human, came around. It's like someone who cheats, you can't sit. I have clients who are like, how long is she going to take before she forgives me? And I'm like, she could forgive you, but her heart is still healing. So for her to come back to you like, hey, baby, I don't know how soon that's going to happen. You got to just stick it out and pray. But that's not what people want to hear. They want to hear like, there's something I can do to speed this process up.
You made a very powerful statement of how that we quickly want to blame the other person for the failures instead of looking at ourselves. And then even when you said that, you went back to God and God started to show you, and I started to show that it was you that was our problem, and how quickly that you ran away from that. Did you run away in that process because of embarrassment or because you didn't want to face the truth?
No, it was fear. It was fear.
Okay.
It was kind of like when you squeezed a lemon, you get to a point where you're like, I think I squeezed it all the juice out. I was worried that all the juice had been squeezed out. I figured either he's going to not be able to get over this, because it had been 12 years. It had been like that for 12 years because I was a nightmare since day one. So for 12 years, I had not seen a person who was able to relax and just pour into me. So I had lost hope that was even possible. So for me, it was like, if this ever could happen, I don't know if I can tolerate sticking around long enough until it does. And this is what's necessary for men to understand. For women, it's not a logical decision. We don't do calculations. It's literally like having an oxygen hose. That's the only source of oxygen coming through that hose, and someone stepping on the oxygen. Without God supplying you that oxygen, your oxygen is coming from your mate. So if your mate, even justified or not, stops giving you that supply, you feel like you're dying. That's why I started, my physical body started to break down. I started having a nervous breakdown. And they tried to diagnose me with all these things. And I said, no, this is a direct correlation with what's going on in my life. Those diagnoses are for people who have non-correlate, like just randomly out of the blue, you're having these ailments. Mine is in direct correlation with what's happening in my marriage. So it's, I think that's the struggle for men to empathize with women, because they say, for example, with cheating, oh, why can't she just get over it? It's not there's no choice you can make. It's a feeling inside that you don't trust the person. So for me, not feeling loved, because I was acting unlovable, I didn't feel loved. And the feeling of not feeling loved felt like I was losing my oxygen. So it was a matter of survival, emotional survival. And the reason why I said, had I known what I know now, I would have realized there's an alternative. If that oxygen is not coming from your spouse, you can get it from God.
In which God is our number one source. So, okay. So now you've had this wonderful epiphany. So now you're out and you are helping men and women both on how to see the other side. So how's that journey going?
I love it. I think that that's the biggest issue that people have, is not understanding, women not understanding how men are wired, men not understanding how women are wired, and then both people not realizing that a lot of stuff that they're expecting a human to give, they have to get from God directly. So it's been going well.
Okay, so like you've had I've seen some of your lives and some of your YouTubes that you've been very pointed about, or how do you say, come in with an open mind, remove your bias, and just hear what's being said. So what are some key things that you want women to understand about men?
I would say that they are extremely emotional, which is usually a trigger for men to hear this. I don't mean that they're more emotional than women. I think humans are equally emotional. However, women are taught from childhood how to manage their emotions. When they cry, the mom says, there. The daddy says, oh, come here, baby. Let's talk about it. And so the women are taught how to process their emotions. Sometimes they're coddled too much and they don't know how to rein them back in, but they're never discouraged for having emotions. Men, on the other hand, from what I've seen, are told immediately, stop it. That's not what boys do. Man up, stop crying, that whole thing. And so a lot of times when a boy is hurt, it is rewarded if he is expressing it through anger. So if he takes his anger out on the football field, that's celebrated. If it takes it out on, even if he kicks another kid's butt, it's like they might laugh, oh, don't do that. But they're really low key, like celebrating that. Yeah, you took care of that kid. So
right.
Men are not really shown how to express themselves. So they learn how to just compartmentalize everything. And part of it's good because, you can't have a guy falling apart if he's in the military or police force or, in office or something. However, a lot of men don't know how to even handle what they've put into that compartment. So when they encounter a woman, she sees his stoic face. He's not expressing himself. So she's assuming he just is void of emotions. And that could not be further from the truth. He's just bottling them, and sometimes he's raging inside or dying in pain inside, but she has no clue. So the biggest thing I would want women to understand is he has emotions just like you, but unless you make him feel very, very safe, you're never going to be privy to most of them. You have no clue what he's going through.
Okay. Now, what's something that you want men to understand about women?
I want them to understand how sensitive we are. I think if people realize how sensitive we are, they would treat us very differently. It's kind of like if anyone's ever had a tooth pulled. If you don't have a tooth pulled, you don't have a nerve that's exposed. So you can have air hit it, water hit it, whatever. If you've ever had a nerve exposed in your mouth, the slightest breeze is enough to make you just want to end your life. It is the most excruciating pain. So it wouldn't be funny to somebody or lighthearted, to blow in that person's face, because they'd be like, oh my God, I know the pain that's happening. I think because men don't respond to things the same way as women, they automatically go to, you're being too emotional. But the very thing they love about us is our capacity to love. I truly believe that in the spirit realm, women are more penetratable, and our anatomy matches that too. I believe it's the reason why the enemy was able to deceive her, is because spiritually we are more penetratable. So whether it's a good energy coming in or a bad energy, we are sensitive to it, similar to a piece of linen or a screen door. It's a lot's going to get through it, as opposed to a steel door, which is more like a man. So you have to really work hard to get in through that door. So with a woman, if you understand, she's very fragile. The Bible says she's the weaker vessel. I think weaker could be used as delicate. She's very delicate. You don't use a delicate thing for something that's tough. Like, you would not try to hammer a nail with a thin, crunchy leaf, because it's going to just break in half. So I think that men need to understand that even if you don't understand her, or you wouldn't have felt that emotional, you should carry enough to care that she's upset, and not just automatically dismiss it, saying you're overreacting.
Okay, in all of your counseling sessions, how long does it take for a man or a couple, or let me just say a man? How long does it typically take for a man that hasn't opened up emotionally? How long does it take for him to open up emotionally, to start expressing exactly what he feels, and also to start showing the empathy or the emotional support that his spouse needs?
So if the wife isn't there, instantaneously, very first session,
really
gushes it out. It's all. That's what I said. It's all. It's not his. He is not incapable. He's not comfortable. Mm-hmm. So when I see a safe space, he's like, let me get it all out. I had a wife one time. She said, "Oh, I want to have you meet with my husband privately first, and then I can meet with you privately, just so he could feel comfortable expressing himself without me there." And I thought, this girl's pretty wise. But that's usually what I do anyway. So we met, and he shared everything. And so when she came on, she started to apologize to me. Like, I know it was probably like pulling teeth. And I went, no, not a problem at all. And it was interesting because when we had our first double session, where he and she were on at the same time, you saw him go back to clamming up, like walking on eggshells. I don't know. And even her body language was kind of like, everything in her was like, what are you about to say? It was very defensive, because again, women are very sensitive to criticism, because if you don't have your spiritual life in balance, criticism seems like they're saying you're not worthy, which is the worst lie that the enemy can tell you. And if you think you're not worthy, it's debilitating. So you have to have your confidence in God to be able to withstand criticism from somebody you really put on a pedestal. So who's higher on the pedestal than the person that you're engaged to or married to? So that was really hard for her. And so what the goal of their counseling session was how to get her to make it a safe space. And the more she was able to make it a safe space, the more she was shocked at what came out of his mouth. But it was stuff she needed to hear, and that was helpful forward.
Wow. Okay. So I'm trying to think of a situation. So men are very sensitive, and I think that that's one thing that women do miss about men is how sensitive that we are. But also I feel that it is us a lot of time, because that we don't talk, we don't speak out, we don't actually say what's really or say what we're really dealing with. I don't think that women understand the amount of pressure that a man is, I'm saying quote unquote pressure that a man is under to protect, provide, pray, to take care of the extra house, to make sure that the cars are maintained, to make sure discipline happens, to make sure, just to make sure that the entire house, the entire edifices of the relationship, that it runs smoothly with the least amount of friction. I don't think that women ever understand the magnitude of what men think about. Now, I think that God gifted us to handle that and to never talk about it, to never complain about it. Because you will hear women say, I do this, I do that, I do this, I do that. What do you do? And the man says, do you really want me to spell it out? Or I don't need to spell it out. I just do it. So, and I think that women should get to a place to understand that. And I am divorced myself. And my wife said, my ex-wife said, I never knew how much that you meant to this family. I never realized how much that you did for this family until you left. So I do really think so. But on the flip side with that too, now I think that we as men have to be more considerate. We have to be, that we have to be soft. Soft is a word that I can use right now. Soft to the point to where that we allow you to be able to come to us and release whatever that you need to release as well. What do you think?
I think it's kind of an unfortunate situation for men, because we really respond well to the silent, persevering, just stoic thing, right? That's what we are drawn to. And it seems so strong and protective. But the reality is then you guys suffer. If you open up and become soft, subconsciously, it's like, well, am I safe here? This is a big old soft guy. He's not a big, strong person that I thought. He actually is human. I had a really interesting conversation, I think it was last year, about that, where, all these women are saying, oh, I want men to be vulnerable. I want them to open up. The reality is, if a man actually really opened up to the extent that we're saying we want it, I don't know if a lot of us can handle it. Like if he said, I really don't know how to make ends meet, I'm under so much pressure, or, all that. So I think it's this crazy balance that a man has to uphold, I guess you would say. I don't know, for lack of a better term. But it's this balancing act they have to do, where it's like, it's just enough to be sensitive, but you still have to be this leader. I guess the equivalent would be with a parent. You want to be empathetic and sensitive, but you would never want to burden your kids and be like, oh my God, we don't know how we're going to buy groceries. Like, that's too much for a kid. So, and I know women bristle if I make the comparison of parent-child to husband and wife, but it's kind of true, There's so much, I don't think there's the whole truth that we can always handle emotionally. So I would say to use discretion even in there. But I think it's okay I would say this, I think expressing yourself is always good. It doesn't necessarily backfire. It's the appearing out of control that usually makes women afraid. So it's nothing to say, man, I'm really not sure what I'm going to do next, but I know God's going to provide, and I have these other options if I need to. But just kind of, hey, pray for me, babe. That's different than, oh my God, and you're in the fetal position. Like, as I said, it's balance, and I would hope you know what your wife can handle. But I think it's a combination.
Hey, we just finished part 1. Hey, next week I want you to come back for part 2. This is some great content. And again, I hope that you heard something in this segment that it actually helped you to understand something that you may have done or for future relationships, things to actually look out for. Hey, I apologize for my side of the house of the bad feed. I don't know what was going on, but I couldn't redo the whole interview, but it is what it is. Hey, come back next week, part 2, and let's hear what Yonci has to say again for part 2. Until then, peace. Thank you for watching Sunday Conversations. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. We look forward to seeing you next week as we continue to bring you relevant content. Remember, God has a purpose and a plan for your life. Live life intentionally.